Welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast. I'm Collin Whitchurch, and I'm joined by Sean Zerillo for a quick look at the Monday MLB slate. As we've been doing since the season started to wind down, I'll set the stage a bit here on the state of the playoff race before we get into the picks, see which matchups actually have stakes. Of course, the Phillies and Mets begin a series tonight at the bank. It's their last 4 games against one another this year. The Phillies lead the division by 7 games entering play. So it's almost definitely a wrap in that division, but it's worth watching regardless. Mets need a sweep to stand any semblance of a chance here down the stretch. Even if they don't stand a chance, they're still kind of sort of looking in the rearview mirror at a couple of teams right now. The Reds are 4 back. They face the Padres starting today. The Padres, of course, are the second wildcard team right now, just 1 back of the Dodgers in the NL West. All these teams beat up on each other a little bit, and the Dodgers get a little bit of a break while they open up a series at home against the Rockies. As you can see, we're kind of grasping at races here. Most seem kind of settled. In the AL, the East is kind of fun, but of those 3 teams, only the Red Sox start a series tonight. They're in Sacramento against the Athletics. AL West and Wild Card are still kind of interesting. Texas hosts Milwaukee, Seattle hosts St. Louis, and in Cleveland, the Guardians and Royals start a series. Kansas City is 2 back in the wild card race, Cleveland 2.5 back. Somehow these teams are still relevant with now less than 3 weeks left in the season. There just aren't enough good teams in the American League to justify this many playoff teams this year. That's going to happen sometimes. So that's where we're at. But Sean, before we get into best bets, I need to let you know that we're celebrating here a little bit. And you need to know why. My Chicago White Sox officially went over their preseason win total over the weekend of 53.5. My question to you, my half serious, mostly joking question to you, should Will Venable win Manager of the Year?
What is it, a 15-win improvement already at this point?
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable. I doubt any other team has improved by that many games relative to last season. I'd be curious to look at the year-over-year won-loss records and see who gained more wins relative to last year, who gained more wins as a share of their record, because he's probably up there. I would imagine the favorite is probably Hinch, right, in the American League?
Schneider, actually. Schneider, then Hinch.
John Schneider, then Hinch. Okay, and they have the same record, the Jays and the Tigers. So maybe it could come down to who gets the 1 seed. I guess the Jays are certainly a little bit more of a surprise because they were projected to finish 4th or 5th in the AL East. But no, I mean, you make a very valid point. The White Sox certainly outperformed everybody's expectations this season. Maybe not the win total market, because they did end up clearing that, and it did seem like a high number, but ultimately meeting that projection, I think, is pretty impressive. And also, you've just seen natural improvement. Like, their offense is enjoyable to watch now. They actually have some pitchers who are in the minors, high minors, that you're excited to watch come up. But, as an organization, at least it feels like everything is moving in the right direction. And also, the division you're in is not particularly daunting either. The Twins have kind of waved the white flag, going forward. I don't know what they're going to be next year. The Guardians have had one of their best players potentially suspended, not suspended, but on team leave indefinitely, and it doesn't seem like he's coming back at any point, nor do they ever invest in their roster. And the Royals, I think, their minor league depth is still pretty shallow. So just going forward, even beyond this year, are the White Sox maybe the second most interesting team in the Central as of next year? It's very possible. Next year, we're White Sox can finish second, plus 400.
I love that I sprung this on you. Did not discuss this pre-show, did not put it in the notes, and you still give me such a succinct answer on my just attempts at shoehorning the White Sox in.
You got to feel good about Colson Montgomery, though. He seemed like the hit tool was an absolute mess. I was listening to scouts talk about the fact that they didn't think he'd be able to hit at the big league level, when they first brought him up this year, and he figured it out. So, elite talents, the cream rises to the top, and yeah, at least you got some dudes that you could be excited about as the core of the team going forward.
He's going to lead the team in home runs, and he debuted on the 4th of July.
Wild.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into best bets. We got a couple here. We've got a lot on the same game today. I'll kick off best bets here with the aforementioned Mets-Phillies game. I'm on the Mets first 5 money line specifically tonight against the Phillies. We've got our boy Nolan McLean on the mound tonight against this really sad and broken version of Aaron Nola. Sean, you've said it before. We've talked about it plenty. Nolan McLean has some of the best stuff in baseball right now. Everything about the 4 starts he's made at the major league level screams ace-like pitcher. There's no reason to think otherwise right now. The one concern if you were backing him tonight, is that this will be the second time the Phillies have seen him. Mm-hmm. Most will remember how he threw 8 shutout innings against them 2 weeks ago, but how will these veteran hitters adjust seeing him a second time? And being the first team to see him a second time in his young career, it'll be really interesting. I'm really, really, really interested in seeing how McLain adjusts to the Phillies' adjustments. I'm betting on his stuff, though. I think it plays, and I'm not concerned that much about the repeat opponent. I'm also very keen on betting against Aaron Nola right now. He was bad before he got hurt, and in 4 starts since he's returned, he's allowed 18 earned runs in 19 and a third innings. When you look under the hood with Nolan, nothing is particularly jarring, but everything is backed up just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the margin for error for an older pitcher like Nola is slim. He's still missing bats, and his knuckle curve remains one of the best pitches in baseball. But if you're a stuff plus guy, you just see a slight downtick across the board from his peak. What's more important to me, though, is that he's lost command of his fastball. He's grooving it more than ever before. Prior to this year, the highest isolated slugging Nola has allowed on his fastball was 250 2 years ago. This year, the fastball has a 308 ISO against. Hitters are sitting on it. They're absolutely crushing it. The Mets, by the way, the 7th best fastball hitting team in baseball. So, do I think Nola's a true talent, 6.78 ERA pitcher? No. In fact, the expected stats are quite lower. They say he's been very unlucky. He's also walking more batters than ever before in his career. When you pair a hittable fastball and shaky command with allowing more free base runners than ever, it's a recipe for disaster. Nola's only 32. He's not that old. I don't think he's cooked. I hope he's not cooked. He's always been one of my favorite pitchers. But until he shows me that he has it back, I'm going to assume he's not back. Facing one of the best young pitchers in baseball today, I'll isolate the starters in this matchup, take the noise out of the bullpens here, and back the Mets on the first 5 money line. I got this last night at minus 120. It's jumped up a little bit since then, but I'd bet back the Mets on the first 5 money line at minus 140 or better. Sean, before you get into your best bets, you have a play on this total.
Yeah, I have the under in this game, the under 9. I think it did come down to 8.5, but I bet this last night at 9. Anthony DeBundo, our former resident Phillies fan, fired this in the app right after I did and texted me about it. He also said it was too high for an Aaron Nola start, even if Aaron Nola is washed. And he is probably the biggest Aaron Nola fan on the planet. So if he's, as worried as he is about Aaron Nola and still thinks this number is too high, I think that's probably directionally correct, and seeing it go down, obviously encouraging. Now, if you told me yesterday we got a shit ton of CLV on unders, and ultimately it didn't matter, but in terms of pointing to the direction that I think the market will move these numbers, I think we've been pretty much on the nose regardless of how the results have ended up shaking out. Now, with regard to Nola and his decreased stuff and the decreased results, his strikeout minus walk rate, career worst, but it's still above the major league average. 16% is still 2.5% above the major league average. Like, yes, his expected ERA is near 5. Rest of season FIP projections still have him between 385 and 4.6 with an average of 4.03. That's actually better than Nolan McLain's rest of season FIP projections. I just think the FIP projections for McLain are wrong. I think they might be a little bit too high on Nola. I think they're certainly way too low on McLain. McLain's rest of season projections between 394 and 450. Not a chance. The bot ERA is 3.5. The expected ERA is 2.5. I think he's somewhere between there. In fact, and it's only a 4-start sample, but just to put the level and contextualize how well he's pitched, a 2.45 expected ERA through 4 starts. Skeens is at 257 on the year. Skubal is at 269. That's how good McLain has looked in these outings. Granted, as you've said, this is the first time he'll face a team for a second time. And as we've alluded to as well, even though the stuff is elite, he can come unglued a little bit in terms of the command. But that is really the only time he's giving up runs, is after he walks guys and puts a couple on base and the command's a little wonky, and then maybe he gives up a hit. He's not giving up repeated hard contact. Teams are not rallying against him. And also he gets a lot of double plays too, because he's very east-west instead of north-south. He's attacking dudes with sinkers and sliders and sweepers and changeups. Really good article from David Adler on MLB.com from last week that I read, comparing the development tracks of McLain and Tong, and how it's cool that the Mets pitching lab is capable of not developing just one type of starter. They've fully optimized McLain, adding a sweeper and a kick change to make him a fully east-west pitcher. Jonah Tong is fully over the top with curveballs and fastballs and going north-south on teams. So they've added a pitch and modified the delivery to both of these guys in order to effectuate how good they are and accentuate their skill sets. And McClain, I think, is just absolutely silly in terms of the stuff that he's throwing. And really, I don't really know if seeing him a second time is going to help the Phillies at all, because he throws 6 different pitch types and could just hit them with a different plan of attack tonight, too, if something is not working. So, yeah, really wide arsenal full of elite stuff, 113 stuff plus. I make this total about 8.25. So under 8.5 at even money, but I'd really prefer a 9 at -120, just because these games and these bullpens and the bullpen familiarity on both sides, it seems like we always get late runs between the Mets and the Phillies. So under 9 to -120, my preferred, but you can take 8.5 at even money.
Yeah, Mets. Brendan Sproat also debuted yesterday. Another one of their young arms there. So I'm on first 5 money line for the Mets. Sean on the under there. Let's jump over to your best bet, which coincides with my favorite underdog today. We are talking about so many of my favorite pitchers to bet on today, and we've got another one in this one: Royals Guardians. Slade Ciccone against my boy Ryan Berger. You've got 2 bets on Kansas City today.
Yeah, I've got the Royals and I've got the under. Wind blowing in here about 7-8 miles an hour in cooler temperatures. So normally I would put this total around 7.75, even closer to 8. I have it around 7.5 for Monday. So I like the under 8 down to about -110. And then I also like the Royals as well. I project them around -108. I would bet them in even money or better. They've just had the better offense and the better bullpen over the past 30 days. And projections view Bergert and Ciccone pretty similarly. I think I slightly prefer Bergert, but just, to get into the lineups, that's the real glaring issue. Royals last 30 days, 30th in WRC plus, a 68 WRC plus, just not hitting at all. The Royals actually 11th with a 108 over the same span. So big differential in offensive quality of late. The Royals bullpen also performing better too. Last 30 days, 7th and 10th in expected FIP and strikeout minus walk. Cleveland 16th and 22nd, respectively. And I believe Cade Smith might be down tonight. I think they used him twice in the past 3 days as well. I think their top 2 guys potentially might be down tonight based on when I went through the bullpens for this game last night, too. And then, in the starting pitching matchup, Bergert, I think projections are underselling him. His rest of season projections between 4.6 and 4.9. I think he's closer to a 4 expected ERA, 3.87 body ERA. He doesn't have great stuff, but he sequences really well, and he avoids barrels and avoids hard contact. So I think he's a league average pitcher. I think Ciccone may be closer to a number 4. As I said, I make the Royals about -108 and the total about 7.5. So KC to even money and under 8.5 to -110.
Yeah. Cade Smith, to your point real quick, has thrown the last 3 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's no way he's going tonight. I'm with you. The Royals, my favorite underdog today. I've waxed about Berger on the pod just a couple weeks ago. He's my new fascination. Another pitcher the Royals identified, bought low on, and immediately helped improve upon acquiring him. For those unfamiliar, Berger came to Kansas City in the deadline deal that sent backup catcher Freddie Fermin to the Padres. He throws a fastball with just a ton of backspin on it. Helps it seem harder than like the 93-ish miles an hour it averages. He also throws it from an insanely high arm angle, one of the highest arm angles in the league from a starter. It's kind of the pronator class of pitcher, but he also gets a ton of horizontal movement on the sweeper. That's a combination that's incredibly rare and incredibly valuable in tunneling the pitches and not sacrificing velocity for the sake of mechanics. He's also throwing the sweeper more often than ever before, even more than his fastball. He's thrown his his sweeper, more sweepers than fastballs in 5 of his 6 starts in Kansas City. Kind of carried over from the end of his tenure in San Diego, but earlier this year he was throwing his fastball 60 to 70% of the time. So this is clearly a guy who has tinkered, found a way to have success. As I mentioned, 6 starts since joining the Royals. He's given up 9 runs in 33 1/3 innings, striking out nearly a batter an inning. Even more notable, though, is that he's walked just 11. That's not a great total for 33 1/3 innings, but it's far lower than we were seeing during his time in San Diego. We saw Kansas City have success with a young pitcher with untapped potential before when they traded for Cole Reagans a couple years ago, almost immediately turned him into an ace. I am in no way saying that Berger has that type of high-end upside, but he's clearly figured something out with the Royals, and the Royals have clearly identified him as someone with whom their staff can work. You mentioned the Mets pitching lab is really successful at working with like any type of pitcher. The Royals, that's not necessarily true, but they can work with a really specific type of pitcher, and Berger is that type of pitcher, clearly. So you mentioned him against Ciccone. I think that Berger is clearly the better pitcher here than Ciccone. I like the under, like you said, and I really like the Royals here as Underdogs plus 108, as you mentioned.
Yeah, Royals starting pitching development has actually been pretty good, right? Like bringing Lugo and stretching him out. And
Noah Cameron, nobody really believed in. It has a really good season this year. I don't know if I really necessarily believe in him long term, but you never know with the way they.
Waka and Lorenzen have pitched well for them. Like
Yeah.
Maybe not even like development, but just like they're really good at identifying guys they think can be effective arms for them and give them 150 plus innings, and it keeps working. So I don't know what their like analysis is for durability and like, dudes who could just grind out innings. But yeah, that's what they needed though. I talked about it coming into the year. Like depth was the serious issue for them. And I said, if Reagans gets hurt, if they have a couple of big injuries, like I don't know what they do or how they survive the season. Well, Reagans did get hurt and they managed to survive the season. So I think that alone is pretty impressive that they were able to supplement, probably the one guy in their team they couldn't afford to lose and still manage to be above 500 to this point. It's actually pretty impressive. And they had some nice deadline acquisitions as well.
Yeah. The depth is, the answer to what are they going to do if they lose Cole Reagans is sign Rich Hill for a couple starts there in the middle of the season. So that speaks to their lack of minor league depth. But you're right about, they kind of help fill in the middle there with, Cameron. They in their farm system with pitching right now, high minors talent, they have like nothing behind Noah Cameron. So that's why the need for guys like Rich Hill and making these savvy trades for guys like Berger. Let's jump over to your favorite underdog, though. We've got Cubs Braves tonight in Atlanta. Shota Imanaga against Bryce Elder. I actually fired off a couple pitching props on this. Tailed our guy Derek Carty on a couple of outs unders on both Imanaga and Elder. They're both at 17.5. So just throw that out there while I throw it to you for your favorite underdog play today.
Yeah, keep an eye on the lineups here. PCA injured himself the other day. Got an MRI on his knee. It came back okay. X-ray on his knee, MRI on his knee. And then Kevin Alcantara sliding into home plate yesterday. Sprained his ankle, got up hobbling a little bit. So I'm not sure who plays center field for the Cubs today. I would imagine PCA is probably back in there, but maybe at less than 100%. And I think I shouted this out on the pod last week, but the difference between PCA and Willie Castro in my model is probably the biggest positional player downgrade you could have defensively. It's worth like a 3% swing, just an implied probability to my game projection. I think the only player switch who exceeds that is Patrick Bailey for Andrew Kisner behind the plate for the Giants. But in terms of an outfield position player or an infield position player, I think it's probably the biggest defensive downgrade you could have is removing PCA and sticking Willie Castro out in center field. If you stick Kevin Alcantara in there, it's probably somewhere in the middle of those two, but I have PCA as like the number one center fielder. Castro is the worst. Alcantara, I think, is a slightly above average dude in center. But again, he did maybe sprain his ankle yesterday, so that could take him down from 100% to 90% as well. So just something to watch in terms of the lineups. But regardless, I have PCA in there right now. I like the Braves to plus 107, even if PCA plays. If he does not play, I like them closer to minus 102. The trade-off for Castro's bat versus Alcantara's bat kind of project that at the same level, regardless of who's in center field. But the Braves in their better split against the left-handed starter. Even though Acuna is hitting like 6th or 7th in the lineup for now, he's just not been hitting of late. So they decided to drop him way down into their lineup. It's been very goofy seeing Acuna's lineup spot the past few days. Still view this as their better split, even with their best hitter potentially hitting 6th or 7th. Last 30 days, 10th versus left-handed pitching, 115 WRC plus, 16th against right-handed pitching, about 11 points lower. And Bryce Elder's been pretty solid of late. He's a guy I used to hate betting on. The last 2 months, he's been a league average pitcher. 4 ERA, 396 expected FIP, 11% strikeout minus walk. His command has improved. The location plus has gone up from 105 over the first 2 months of the season to 112 over the past 2. And the bullpen for Chicago as well. Not only did they implode that total for me yesterday, but Danny Palencia seems like he might go down too because he's had a shoulder issue. It seems like he may go on the injured list with shoulder tightness. So not only potentially PCA out for the Cubs, but also Palencia very likely down for the Cubs as well. I like the Braves, as I said, to plus 107 if PCA is in and minus 102 if he's out for Monday's slate. And it's my favorite underdog on this slate, given the possibility that it may be a bigger edge than it looks like initially.
PCA is helping answer the question, how high of a WAR can you have with a sub 300 on base percentage? He's at 6.3 WAR with a 293 OBP right now. Obviously, kind of sunk offensively a little bit here in the second half. I don't know the answer to this question, but I heard some other guys talking about this. Bert Campaneris, 1972, had a 5.4 win season with a 603 OPS. He had a 278 OBP. He had a 240, 278, 325 line, and was worth 5.4 wins above replacement because of his defense and his.
Did he win a Gold Glove? I would hope he won a Gold Glove that year.
I don't even know if did Gold Gloves exist back then. He finished 16th in MVP voting. 5.4 WAR. He led the league in plate appearances, led the league in stolen bases, led the league in sacrifice hits. And yeah,
but
so that's
this Gold Glove started in 1957. I don't see any Gold Gloves on his baseball reference page though. So that's very interesting.
Junior Caminero is also in that ballpark. He's got a 301 OBP with 3.8 WAR right now, and that's even more impressive because that's not defense first. Like, his offense is that good that it can sustain despite that low OBP.
I love all the people crapping on Junior Caminero for his home road splits when he has the same number of home runs, home run versus road. He's just hitting like under 200 on the road. I mean, I don't really care that his road splits are that bad. He's a 21-year-old with a 40 home run season at major league level. People need to calm down. This is a future Hall of Famer.
Right. Football season is here, folks. We've got some huge improvements and updates coming on the award-winning Action Network app, which we're very excited to discuss in the weeks ahead. But to get the most out of the app, you'll still need to be an Action Pro subscriber. It's only with Action Pro you get real-time pick alerts from me, Sean, the entire team of Action Network experts. Plus, you can access pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team, and a ton of other benefits. And right now, Action Network podcast listeners can save $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use code PAYOFF20. That's actionnetwork.com/pro with code PAYOFF20 for $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. We have Grant Neiffer on deck waiting to give out some of his favorite dingers for this Monday, but we've got a couple more bets. Sean has 4 more bets. I have 2 more. One of those come from the same game. Sean, I'll let you go first here. Matchup that the only baseball sickos will be watching tonight. Nationals Marlins. Cade Cavalli against Jansen Junk. Cade Cavalli is, I think, finally no longer a pitching prospect. I think he's like the pitching version of Jorge Alfaro with how long he was a prospect for. Finally healthy, finally pitching in the majors to varying degrees of success against the junk baller in Miami.
Yeah, this is really just a stuff versus command matchup with Cavalli against Jansen Junk. Obviously, Junk has the fun name, but he is a command guy. I have the numbers here in front of me. 108 pitching plus on the season, but none of his pitches are higher than 96 on the stuff plus scale. And for Cavalli, 109 stuff plus, he has 4 different pitches above 100 on the stuff plus scale. So even though the metrics and the projections for these two are pretty comparable, average fit projection for Cavalli 4.2, for Junk 4.3. It's very comparable, expected results, projections going forward. Cavalli just has a significantly higher ceiling because he has much bigger stuff. And if the command piece continues to get honed, he's going to be the much better arm. And in fact, this year, his walk rate is around 6%. So you're already seeing him command the ball pretty well. I think as he continues to figure out the pitch mix and continues to move further away from his injury, you'll see him continue to blossom and break out. The stuff is just too good not to. 114 stuff plus on the knuckle curve, 102 on the 4-seam fastball, 114 on the sinker, and 104 on the changeup. So has a pretty good pitch mix. 2 different fastball types, a curveball and a changeup, should be able to get both lefties and righties out. And as I said, the command has gotten a little bit better this year. But really, it's the offenses and the bullpens that have led me to a bet on the Nationals in this game. Because as I said, the starting pitchers project pretty similarly, and I have not upgraded Cavalli, even though I do view him as the better arm. Last 30 days, Nationals 21st, Marlins 28th in WRC+, Nats 10 points better. The Marlins are still without Kyle Estellers, 148 WRC+ for him, and 4 wins above replacement on the year. Just probably their best player still out of the lineup. The bullpens, the Marlins have lost David Bednar, Tyler Zuber, Tarnock, and Tinoco all in the last 3 weeks. Bednar probably was their best reliever. Last 30 days, Nationals 17th in expected FIP, 16th in strikeout minus walk from their bullpen. Very surprising. They've pushed closer to league average because they have been the worst bullpen in baseball for the majority of the season. Maybe figuring some things out here, though, near the end, and some guys they want to carry forward into 2026. The Marlins, same span, 30th in strikeout minus walk, 30th in expected FIP, 27th in strikeout minus walk over the past 30 days from their bullpen. So bottom of the league versus mid-table. And then offensive-wise, Nationals, as I said, rank about 11 points better, too. I make them plus 104 in this game. I like them at plus 112 or better. Viewed them as the better team coming into the year. Obviously has not played out in that direction, but I do think in terms of today's matchup, they're the value side.
I'm seeing another bet on this game that's kind of interesting. Want to get your take on over-under announced attendance of 7,500 in Miami tonight. Their last home Monday home game against a non-contender a couple weeks ago against Atlanta, announced attendance was 8,111. So this is against the Nationals, not the nearby Braves. So
yeah, I'd go under on 7,500.
We're going under 7,500. We will recap that. I guarantee you we will recap that on tomorrow's episode to see if we cash that under or not. Sean's on the Nationals money line tonight. I will go with my next final bet. I'm going to Arizona, San Francisco. My guy Nabil Crisma on the mound for the Diamondbacks, pet favorite of Baseball Prospectus. My old friend Craig Goldstein, shout out to him, who is a big Nabil head. And he's been turning out since joining the Diamondbacks rotation. If you're unfamiliar with Nabil Crisma, I do not blame you. He's had a circuitous career, to say the least. He signed as an amateur free agent with the Mets all the way back in 2011 when he was 16. Since then, here's the list of orgs he's been part of. The Mariners, the Cardinals, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, the Rangers, the Padres, the Phillies, the Diamondbacks again. So that's 2 Padres trips and now his second Diamondback trip. And he's only had about 170-ish career innings entering this season, almost all of which came in 2021-22 in San Diego. He was actually a pretty good reliever for the Padres back then. He's in Arizona now, occupying a rotation spot, and he's made 3 starts and 4 appearances. He's been pretty good. He's a sinker baller, does a solid job of keeping the ball on the ground, throws a ton of changeups, allows just a 205 batting average on that changeup. He can hardly throw the ball even 90 miles an hour. I think he's averaging about 88 miles an hour on his fastball this year. So he gets by on deception and stuff, but it works sometimes. And I think this is a decent spot to buy him against a Giants offense that's in the bottom 5 of the league in hard hit rate. Seems like a good recipe for a wily 30-year-old veteran journeyman to carve them up. Don't need to say a lot about the other side of the ball. Logan Webb is an ace, one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. I have no problem backing him to shut down the Diamondbacks tonight. Both of these bullpens scare me a little bit, but I'm comfortable enough fading these offenses that I like the value in under 7.5 tonight in San Francisco. Any thoughts there, Sean, before we move on?
No, that's about where I have it. Normally San Francisco's Park, Oracle Park, the ball flies a little bit better during the day than it does at night. The wind doesn't really have as much of an impact as you would anticipate, or not as it does at other parks. You wouldn't anticipate that it might have a huge impact with the water right there. The wind is blowing out though to left field tonight, 6 to 8 miles an hour. So I do worry about some home runs potentially getting pulled into that left field corner where normally it's like one of the hardest places they hit home runs.
Yeah.
So my total, like there's a weather adjustment on my total. Normally on a weather neutral night, if the wind was not there, I would have this total. I just want to pull it up for you. I would put this at 7.4. With the wind adjustment, I make it 7.6. So it's no bet for me regardless. I do want to see umpires before I would end up firing on this. But I bet on Crismat a couple times. I think the main concern with an under is really just that the D-backs bullpen is terrible. And
yeah,
Lavulo, for some reason, still thinks that they're in the playoff race. And on days where they fall behind, he's just like sacrificing whatever pitcher is out there and just saying, you have to go out and eat 5 innings and give up 10 runs because we're already down, so I don't really care. So that's my concern, is just like Lavulo just lets a sacrificial lamb stay in there and eat a bunch of runs at the end of a game that they're already trailing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's very much like adamant that they're still in the playoff race, which I think is pretty funny.
That game is being broadcast on FS1 for some reason, so that's their That's the counter programming to Monday Night Football tonight is some Diamondbacks Giants. All right, let's move on.
Over under 7,500 total viewers on that game.
All right, let's move on. We both have a play here on Boston against Sacramento. I'll let you go first because you have a much more interesting play on the dog here tonight against Cy Young contender.
Yeah, I took a shot on the A's tonight. I make them about plus 130. You can take them down to plus 140. I just like Luis Morales a lot. And you look at the stuff, you look at the profile, and you're like, this is clearly a reliever because he has one pitch that grades out better than 100 stuff plus. And you're like, all right, what am I missing? Well, if you watch him, he's very impressive. He throws the fastball really hard. 94th percentile in fastball velocity, 97.3 on the fastball he's averaging. And he gets it above the hands consistently, too. He's pretty accurate with it, and he likes to raise it and get dudes to swing up in the zone with it, and that complements a very wicked sweeper and slider he throws. Fangraphs doesn't divide out the stuff plus on the two offerings. He does throw two different pitch types. I believe one of them is around a 150 and the other's around a 120, but combined, they're a 137, the sweeper and the slider. So two wicked breaking balls. And then the changeup. The changeup only grades out as a 76 stuff plus. Stuff models have problems with changeup sometimes. Aesthetically, it's great, and it's gotten good results. It just dives below the hands and below the zone. So he's got the fastball that he can elevate. He's got the changeup that he can make you swing over the top of. And then he's got sweepers and sliders that you're flailing at down and away. I just think he's a good pitcher, and I think he's much better than projections suggest. Have him between 4.3 and 4.7. And the A's offense is a much hotter unit right now. No Roman Anthony for the Red Sox. They seem to be struggling to piece together runs. Last 30 days, A's 7th, Red Sox 18th. Last 2 weeks, A's 5th, Red Sox 21st in terms of WRC plus. And the A's bullpen is pretty solid too. You know, even after trading Mason Miller, they still have dudes that I'm pretty confident in coming in at the end of the game. Elvis Alvarado, Hogan Harris, Sean Newcomb. They converted him to a reliever. He's looked pretty solid. So the A's player development in general is underrated. We've discussed this year, but like their position player development is underrated, and their pitching development maybe as well. They developed this kid Morales. He's come up. He's looked pretty solid. They developed a lot of their relievers internally. I'm actually relatively impressed by the A's, you know, compared to the resources that we think they put into this team. But in terms of today's matchup, as I said, project them around plus 130, like them down to plus 140, and hopefully we're tied as this game heads to the bullpens.
Yeah, I'm on the under here. We don't need to talk a lot about Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is what he is, but you said a lot of what I was going to say about Morales. You and I have already talked about how much we like him. Not quite an out-of-nowhere pop-up prospect. He was number 79 on Baseball America's Top 100 before 2024. No other prospect outlet had him on their Top 100, though, and this year he fell off the radar a little bit. Couldn't advance past high A last year, but this year was really good in Double A for 42 innings, and then 47 really good innings in Las Vegas. If you go look at his stats, you're not going to say those were really good. He was pitching in Las Vegas and in the Pacific Coast League, which is an extremely hitter-friendly run-scoring environment. So, A, that gives him a leg up in comfortability pitching in Sacramento, and B, the stuff was really good relative to the run-scoring environment he was pitching in. You mentioned the reliever risk here. I do think that's really real. His slider is absolutely filthy. I think that he really needs to develop that changeup as like a really strong above average third pitch for him to stick in a rotation. It's kind of fringy right now, playing off the slider and fastball. But right now, with the slider, with the fastball, against a team that hasn't seen him before, I'm very comfortable backing him. You mentioned concerns about the Red Sox offense. No Roman Anthony. They're still waiting on Wilyer Abreu to come back. I guess he started running again over the weekend, so getting him back will be very important for them down the stretch. But their offense has plenty of question marks right now without.
I need to mention as well. I took a shot against Tarek Skubal in this park too. You know, we've discussed like the mound potentially not being up to major league standard, or Skubal gave up 6 runs in that start. Now he was pretty clean for most of that start. The A's didn't get to him until the final inning, but he was in trouble throughout it, and they were working him, and you know he looked a little bit uncomfortable. So I think the likelihood that you get a 100% comfortable Garrett Crochet tonight is, pretty low, right? This is going to be a weird venue that he's pitching in for the first time, and the mound may not be up to his standard. Like the temperature is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, the humidity. So yeah, it's just a tough spot, I think, in general for anybody the first time they're going there. And the A's have played better at home the longer the season has gone on. It's like they've grown into their own home field advantage there.
And we joke about pitchers who recently came up from the minors being more comfortable pitching in Sacramento. Well, if there's any complete opposite of that, it's Garrett Crochet. He has 12 career innings in the minor leagues. If you remember, he went almost straight from the draft to the majors with the White Sox. He has thrown a total of 12 innings in his career in the minor leagues, which is really, really funny. So comfortability with these shoddy minor league conditions, nobody's less comfortable with that than Garrett Crochet, who has only known major league venues for his entire career.
Yeah, or high-level SEC venues, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So Sean is on the A's here. I am on the under in that same game. With the A's being decent plus money, you can actually same game parlay that at plus 276 at DraftKings right now. So that's not too bad of a shot there. Sean, you've got two more totals to talk about. I'll let you jump on those before we get to Grant. You're on an under and over Brewers Rangers, and then Twins Angels.
Yeah, let's start with the under. This is obviously a contrarian under, and it flagged it in Action Labs as a contrarian unders for winning teams bet for today. It's just a very depleted Rangers lineup. They've lost Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, and Evan Carter all in the past month. They actually still have ranked pretty well in terms of stats. Last 14 days, they're 10th in WRC+, but over the past week, they're 30th. A 63 WRC+ over the past week. I think they finally bottomed out along with the players that are on their current roster. I mean, they had Kyle Higashioka hitting cleanup yesterday against Fromber. Like, it's bad. It's an ugly lineup. They scored one run on a drop third strike and a throwing error. Like, they're scoring runs when teams make mistakes against them. They're not producing them on their own. So I'm very low on this Texas offense at the moment, even though they're going against Jose Quintana. And the Brewers, we discussed the Brewers struggling record-wise since their win streak ended. They're actually still a top 10 offense since the middle of August. 7th on the year, 9th since their winning streak ended. But I kind of like Jacob Latz for the Rangers. He has 3 different pitch types that all grade pretty well. 110 on the fastball, 101 on his changeup, 110 on his slider. The walks are the issue, about a 12% career walk rate, but he has good stuff. He generates whiffs, and he avoids barrels. So as long as he does not walk the bases full, I think Latz can be effective. I make this total about 7.6. I like the under an 8.5 down to 8 at minus 105. And then the Twins and Angels, I'm on the over 9. 81 degrees here tonight. 7-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out in Anaheim. So a slight offensive boost, about a 3% offensive boost on the weather alone. Takes me up from about 9.25, closer to 9.5, 9.7. These offenses have not been hitting. Now, I still like the Angels offense. Just in terms of like some of the dudes in there, Trout has been terrible of late. The Twins offense actually projects as the better unit in terms of my project. And last 30 days, as I said, both been bottom 10, 24, 26 respectively. The Twins, though, have in my model a projected 109 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. I have the Angels at a 98. So I think the Angels are performing as well as they should be. I think the Twins have actually underperformed relative to their offensive quality. I don't like either starting pitcher. I think they're both number 4s or number 5s. I mean, the pitching models hate both of these guys as well. You see, expected FIP numbers, ERA numbers around 4.4, but Woods Richardson, his FIP projections between 4.6 and 4.9. His body ERA is 5.1, which is career worst. His stuff plus is also at a career worst. And Caden Dana, projects even worse than Richardson does. His FIP projections between 4.9 and 5.3, and he doesn't have anything higher than a 96 in terms of stuff plus in his arsenal. So 2 pitchers with no particular out pitches to get opposing offenses out, don't have particularly good command, don't have particularly good projections. And then the final piece is that both bullpens suck too. So hopefully these bad offenses can get going against bad starting pitchers and bad bullpens. Last 30 days, the Twins are 26th and 30th in expected FIP. The Angels 21st and 29th respectively. And then also defensively, these are 2 of the worst teams as well. 28th and 29th in defensive runs saved. Twins 21st, Angels 30th. and outs above average. So despite the low offensive quality potentially on both sides, starting pitchers are terrible, bullpens are terrible, and they should give each other at least 28 outs to get some extra runs. So over 9 up to -120. I bet it at -115 last night. Would prefer laying the juice at 9 -120 as opposed to taking 9.5 at even money. So lay the juice where you can. But that's the one over I like pre-umpire for today.
Caden Dana is living proof that if you only draft pitchers, as the Angels have pretty much exclusively over the last couple of years, some of them just by virtue of necessity are going to reach the majors, because he 11th rounder, not great stuff. But before we get out of here, so we just gave you 12 bets on an 11 game slate. Do not ever say that you come to Payoff Pitch and don't get some bets for a slate, because we just crushed it for you. Hopefully we'll crush it with some winners. And before we get out of here, we have more bets to give you. That is from Grant Neiffer of Scores and Odds, bringing you some of his favorite home run props for this Monday night.
Thanks, guys. All right, we got a 3-leg parlay over on DK, 107-1 odds here. Let's get into the first leg. Joe Adele. Now, I know he's sick right now, may or may not play, but if he does play, this is an absolutely phenomenal spot here. Woods Richardson's been getting crushed by righties. Tons of hard contact, tons of fly ball. Fly ball rate 53%, hard contact rate over 40% on the season against righties, and he's giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9. Adele's been one of the hottest, probably the hottest hitter in the league so far this month. 5 home runs in 6 games, absolutely hammering the ball. Plus 260 is kind of low odds, but considering the matchup and his recent form, probably not low enough. Next up, Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo plus 500 is too high here. He gets a matchup versus Nola, who has been absolutely hammered by lefties. He's always been a plus matchup for lefty power in his career, but this season he's just fallen off the rails. He is due for some positive regression, but right now over 2.5 home runs per 9, 2 lefties. This ballpark, one of the best in the league for lefty power. It is neutral weather, but given the matchup versus Nola and how good this ballpark is, Nimmo plus 500 is far too high. And lastly, Rafael Devers plus 400 gets a matchup versus Chris Matt, who mostly been in the pen in his career, been an average matchup for lefty power in his career, but that's coming out of the bullpen. As a starter so far this year, 1.22 home runs per 9 to lefties. Grades out as an above average matchup for lefty powers. Devers, obviously great home run hitter, has been in much better form recently, been hammering the ball recently. So getting him at plus 400 in a positive matchup here, even playing over in San Francisco, is some decent value. Parlay all 3 of them together, 107-1. That's my parlay for today. I'm out of here. Woo!
All right, that'll do it for today's episode of Payoff Pitch. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to tail some of the bets from today's episode, look for the quick slip links in this episode description. Also, very important, if you're on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, we have a great new feature. If you see a bet from any of your favorite action networks, or really anyone on gambling Twitter, you can now tag @Playbook and tell our bot to build you a bet slip at the book of your choice. Go on and try it. I swear. Go on right now. Type in @Playbook. Give me a parlay of Athletics money line and Red Sox Athletics under 9. It will spit you out a bet slip with that parlay at a variety of books, so you can see where the best odds are. Line shop. It's incredible. It'll build it for you with a quick slip link. Opens right up to your sports book. So keep an eye on that new tool at Playbook on Twitter. Also, don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app. Leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. We also have the Action Network Discord channel. There's a link to that as well in the episode description of this podcast. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of Payoff Pitch and more best bets. For Sean Zerillo and Grant Neiffer, I'm Collin Whitchurch. Thanks for listening to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, and good luck with all your bets.